All right, meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Excellent.
Great. It's not entirely, it doesn't look like it's totally done. Not sure if we're live just yet. Sabrina, can you tell?
I'm refreshing currently.
Great.
There's typically a little bit of a delay. You're good.
All right, great. We are streaming live on Facebook. Hello, and welcome to a series of Facebook Live events that we are hosting, where we have conversations with people, partners, and supporters of the North Carolina Outward Bound School. If this is your first time joining us for Facebook Live, welcome. We'd love to know who's watching. So go ahead and drop in the comments where you are viewing from and how you know the North Carolina Outward Bound School. Are you a student, staff alumni, a prospective student, perhaps an excited, aspiring future staff member? We want lots of you, please. Or are you a student or colleague of one of our great panelists that are here tonight? Tonight, we're talking about our veterans programs. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and we want to honor and respect the veterans among us and the fact that we have these really amazing programs that can reach our veterans. So want to take a moment to go ahead and introduce our panelists. We have Mr. Jared Turner from the Warrior Alliance. He's the Director of Warrior Engagement. We have Mike Waldron of the 23rd Veterans. He's the Executive Director from there. We have Matt Roski, who is wearing two hats tonight. Matt comes to us currently as a member of the 23rd Veterans. He's the 23V Recon Program Coordinator, and he is our past Veterans Coordinator here at North Carolina Outward Bound. So definitely wearing two hats. And then we have two of our participant alumni joining us, Ms. Karen Tussing and Ms. Christy Adams. And we're just really thrilled to have everyone here tonight. So really just kind of want to jump right in, and let folks kind of just start chatting about, hey, why do you think these wilderness programs that we run are so important to veterans? And I'll just throw that out there and let anyone sort of start up with that.
So I'll go ahead with that one. For me, it just allowed me to link up with other veterans and have this new shared experiences, if you will. I'm glad that we have Matt on because I think Matt set me up, to be honest with you. But, being down in the Florida Everglades, yeah, Matt, I'm going to get you back for that. But being down in the Florida Everglades and, like the first night, he's like, hey, we're just going to sleep on a canoe. I'm like, we didn't sleep on the canoe in the Army, Matt. Give me some more details here. But, just honestly meeting different people, knowing that the one thing that you had in common was your military service, and just being able, it didn't matter where you came from, just being able to get together and just have fun. So that's what was important to me about it.
I enjoyed our experience, especially because we were a group of women veterans, and it's like that's like being two people in a way, just because women sometimes are just not always outdoorsy. If you get together with a group of women, they might not be interested in doing the kind of things that Outward Bound does. But as veterans, we're used to being out of our comfort zone. We're used to sleeping outside, and also probably because we're women who joined the military, we already had that kind of sense of adventure. And so it was, for me, connecting with other women who've had that shared experience of the adventure of being in the military and then doing another adventure, and kind of fun, just also not to have to like get dressed up and look pretty when you go somewhere, like what normally happens in social situations. So that was fun.
I really appreciated not having to put the makeup on the morning when I was out. Yeah, from my perspective, not just the outdoor wellness, but getting out with Outward Bound was extremely healing for a lot of veterans. And even if it's not healing that we're looking for, just an advancement in life. The way that human society has progressed is to a point that we are very disconnected from the wilderness and from what we need for survival for so many years, maybe millions, whether we were created or we evolved, either way, our bodies and psyches are made to live in the outdoors and rely on each other and not be worried about the dangers overseas, and to be able to get out in the wilderness and experience that way of life again with people that you can build trust with and an organization that you can trust. I think one of the things I appreciate about Outward Bound is the structure and the professionalism that comes along with it. So you're not just going out in the woods on a whim with a buddy. It's like when you're out there, you feel safe and comforted, and you know that you're being taken care of. Yeah. So all of those worries are aside, and you can just connect with each other and with the wilderness and the way life used to be.
Thanks for that, Mike.
So I would want to echo what Mike said. Definitely on the level of the disconnection. I think that the powerful thing, the most powerful thing that I saw out of my time working at NCOBS, and also now, even though I'm new in my role with 23rd Veteran, as an employee, 23rd Veteran has worked with NCOBS for multiple years and run multiple crews. And to me, it was always about that sense of camaraderie and team building, whether it was an intact group like the groups that have come from 23rd Veteran and will come from 23rd Veteran in the future, or a crew like Jared or Karen or Christy was on, where it was veterans coming randomly from across the country to come together as that team and be out there with people that had like experiences, and getting out of that isolation and getting out there and doing something that was challenging, and something that might have been challenging physically, or it might have been challenging emotionally, or it might have been challenging on a social basis to put yourself out there with a group of strangers, but knowing that you had that one thing in common, and being able to get out there and try something new, try something different, try something adventurous, and maybe reignite a spark within yourself to get back out there and really re-engage with yourself, and re-engage with your family, and re-engage with your community, re-engage with your friends, and start to build those relationships again, and just get yourself out of that rut that I've seen sometimes veterans will get into, where they're just staying isolated to themselves, or like a really small group of people around them. I also think that the other big thing, at least with Outward Bound and with 23rd Veteran, is that engagement with civilians. I think one of the things that we used to talk about when I worked with NCOBS and we were working with the instructors was trying to break down the civilian veteran divide. And I think it's really a key thing to have the veterans come out on an Outward Bound course, or to go through the 23V recon program, be exposed to the fact that there are civilians out here that care about their experiences and care about them and care about their transition back into civilian life after their time in the military. So those to me are the two biggest things.
Right. Thanks for sharing that, Matthew. Matt, like if
only Linda Brackett.
And right, I know. I like read it off the screen, and I just can't help like say it because I'm staring at it. So I'm gonna, Karen, I'm gonna end up calling you KT in here in a minute. Why don't we take a minute for Jared and Mike? Why don't you guys share with us a little bit about your organizations? I'd love to hear more about the Warrior Alliance and also 23rd Veterans. So, Mike, you want to jump in and let us know about 23rd Veteran?
I was trying to pass that to Jared, but yes. And so first and foremost, happy birthday, Marine Corps. 23rd Veteran. This is an organization that is based off an experience I had after coming out of the military. So I was in the infantry for 4 years in the Marine Corps back in 2000 to 2004. So I did the initial invasion to Iraq. Had no idea that I had changes happen in my brain during that time in Iraq. And it took about 5 years for some fairly severe symptoms of combat stress to set in. I was having panic attacks every day, just in extreme anxiety. I was on medications for it, and I was very isolated. I was seeing therapists for it. I was going to the VA for it. But for 5 years that I was dealing with that, I had no idea that it was related to combat. I just thought I was dying all the time. I didn't know panic attacks were called panic attacks. I didn't know it was anxiety. I just thought I had something physically wrong with me. And 5 years into that, so around now this is 10 years after combat. It's about 2013 is when I started to pull out of it and found my way back to hope and happiness. And I could look back at that point and finally realize all of those panic attacks and that anxiety I was having was related to my time in combat. And I could pinpoint those triggers that I had in combat and what was causing my panic and for the past 5 years. So at that point, I got together with a positive psychologist, read a lot of books on psychology and positive psychology, and some fitness trainers, and put together a 14-week program to help other veterans go through the journey I went through over 5 years, do it much quicker and more effective in transitioning our subconscious to relate our negative triggers from combat to new positive events. So rather than a negative trigger like a loud noise, subconsciously causing our sympathetic nervous system to kick in or our fight or flight to kick in, now subconsciously that loud noise can be related to a new positive memory rather than that old negative memory. And that's about as short as I can explain what we do in 23rd Veteran. Any questions you have on it, I'll happy to answer it. But I'm excited to hear what Jared has to say about, is it Warrior Alliance?
Yes, it's the Warrior Alliance. So essentially, the Warrior Alliance was created loosely about my experiences when I was, so like you, Mike, I was part of the initial invasion into Iraq. I was a medic with 3rd Infantry Division. So after my second tour, or during my second tour, sustained an injury, had to take the magical flight to Landstuhl, and medically retired from the Army in 2010. But when I got back to Atlanta, Georgia, it was simply me trying to go through all of these different resources, not knowing what was going to work, not knowing what was a valid resource. So after going through Shepherd Center and working with entities like The Mission Continues, Team Red, White, and Blue, Hire Heroes USA, you name the gambit, in 2018, myself and a gentleman named Scott Johnson essentially created what is called the Warrior Alliance. So if you will, encompass, think about when a lot of us were on active duty, we had something that was called One Stop. Well, there is no one stop in the civilian sector. And when we say there is none, I mean, there is nobody that you're going to hold accountable. So right now we have 27 community partners that we have MOUs with and service level agreements. And we use Salesforce in GeoPoint to understand where the veteran is or the warrior and where the resource is. And what we do is connect the warrior to the resource. Now, it's not just for post 9/11 veterans, because for us, it's not, hey, you went to combat. It's the fact that you served your country, plain and simple. There's a lot of our brothers and sisters from the Desert Storm era that honestly, they came home to nothing. A lot of times we kind of look over their service and we're like, yo, you were in combat, but it was short. No, combat is combat. And for many of us who've been overseas, we remember that feeling when we land in a foreign country, especially if it was Iraq or Afghanistan, and that door of that plane opens up and that heat wave hits you. You know that you're in a different country. Mike, it takes a lot of us, to include myself, a long time to adjust. So what we want to do and what we've been able to do thus far, we've got 4,000 warriors that are registered with our organization. We started off as just being able to focus on the greater Atlanta metropolitan area, but right now we've got warriors in Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, and North Carolina. So sorry for being a little bit long-winded, but that's us. And I definitely want to thank, North Carolina Outward Bound, because being on that wilderness excursion was the glue, if you will, that I needed to get back to my family. I remember writing that letter to myself and reminding myself that, you know, regardless of your injuries, regardless of, you know, good days and bad days, the fact of the matter is you've got a moment, and that's all you need is one moment to make a positive impact. So, so Matt, again, I'm going to blame you for this, and you're going to be in trouble when I get that chance to see you.
So true. Rasky, I'd love to kind of come back to you. And if you could tell us how 23rd Veterans integrates with NCOBS and like how that fits in your program, because I have a little bit of an understanding, but I think I'd love to hear you sort of explain that.
Sure. So I can definitely get into that. So I don't think we talked about it prior to going live, but Mike's an alum of a veterans course. And that's where I first met him. And I believe that was backpacking and rock climbing at Table Rock in like 2015, right, Mike? So
maybe 2015, one of those two.
Yeah. So after Mike went on his course, sorry, readjusting my position, I guess he had the seeds of what was going to become 23rd Veteran in his head at that point. And I think maybe like 6 months or a year later, he called me up and said, Matt, I'm forming this nonprofit. It's called 23rd Veteran. And I want to send the participants on an Outward Bound course as part of that program. And I was like, well, heck yeah, Mike, let's do that. So the Outward Bound course or the outdoor wellness adventure that we send the students or the participants at 23rd Veteran on is the first week of 14 weeks of the program. And so over the years that NCOBS worked with 23rd Veteran, we had crews run either at Table Rock or we did one group out at the Outer Banks. And I think we had planned when I was at NCOBS, Mike, that we were going to maybe go back to the Outer Banks or get some folks down to Florida because we hadn't ever run a group down in Florida when I was still with NCOBS. But the point of Outward Bound as the initial phase of the 23rd Veteran program, the Recon program, is to build that team, build that teamwork, get the participants together because in most cases they are strangers, even if they're coming from the same geographical area. But to build that base of teamwork and friendship and relationships so that when they come home from the Outward Bound course, they're ready to launch into the following 13 weeks of the program, which are 3 days a week doing CrossFit at a CrossFit gym. And then every other week, there's a family event where the veterans and their families will come out. Like, for instance, this week, I'm actually up in Duluth. I'm about 20 feet away from Mike. He's in the main office and I'm over in the conference room. On Friday, we're going to be having them all out to dinner with each other in a restaurant. And it's not only, that portion's not only about getting the families and the veterans together, it's also about being out in public amongst folks that nobody knows. And that's sort of part of what Mike was talking about, reconditioning the mind to find things that were once uncomfortable to get you comfortable with them again. So we're going to be doing that. We have several other events over those 14 weeks. Previous to this week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Mike took the group here in Duluth out on a hike. And then another sort of public event, they went on a tour of the lighthouse that the name escapes me, the name of the lighthouse up here in Duluth. And then going forward, we're going to have a day where we're at the trampoline park, a day where we're at the adventure zone. For the veterans themselves, there's also a day at the rifle range where we get them out and like Mike was talking about, loud noises or gunfire being a negative association. We're going to take them in and let them, possibly for some of them, it might be the first time they've touched a weapon since they were in the military, but let them, shoot the weapons, hear those bangs, and associate that experience with being out with the people in their group and myself, hopefully, and Mike. And we also integrate other civilians into the crew. So on Monday, the civilians that are part of this group joined the team for the first time. And again, that gets back to that integrating the civilians in to break down that divide. And so the whole 14-week program kicks off with Outward Bound, or in this this past group, we worked with a different organization to do the outdoor wellness adventure because NCOBS wasn't able to program. But it really is the kickoff to build a successful recon program. And then hopefully 14 weeks later, we've kept all the participants with us. And that's part of my job is, keeping them engaged and keeping them supported and keeping them showing up for the workouts and getting out to the events. And, sometimes that's just as hard as it was when I was managing students for Outward Bound to get them to commit to paperwork and things like that. But the goal is always to be engaging and supporting and, getting everyone to continue to participate and give their best effort and get through the program and see the benefit of it. And that benefit always starts with that outdoor wellness adventure, building the base for them to launch upon. So that was a really long-winded explanation. And Mike, I hope I did you proud there.
I think when people are passionate about something, they tend to talk a lot about it, and that's all that is. That's passion that comes through from that. So I totally appreciate that. And I think it's really great that you utilize NCOBS as your kind of onboarding and kind of initial experience. I think that's something that's pretty common for a lot of groups with us, that we are everyone's sort of first toe in the water with a particular thing that they're starting. So that's great that you're doing that. We are monitoring the comments here on Facebook Live and kind of taking some questions. And we do have one question that someone asked, are there any West Coast groups available? And I'm curious, I'd throw that out to Mike or Jared, if you all know of folks where there's maybe a geographical density kind of out west. And Mike, I see you nodding.
Oh, I was nodding to the question. I understand.
Question, okay, yeah.
Is that specific for 23rd Veteran, or is that for NCOBS, Outward Bound?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. So I think it's wondering if there's something similar to you all that's maybe out west, or how you all could serve folks that are out west.
Sure, I do know that Outward Bound, and you can speak to that better than I can about
Sure.
their programs out west. So if that person isn't aware of it, yeah, absolutely. If you go on Outward Bound USA, you can find the different Outward Bound schools in the area and the programs they offer for veterans. For 23rd Veteran, we don't have programs running in the West yet. Our model is to raise funds in the cities that we run the program. So currently where the funding is coming from are the cities that we're helping the veterans in. And the geographics is important. For these 14 weeks, all of those veterans have to commute to the same gym. It's an hour and a half we're in the gym every day. I just opened up this playbook that everybody gets. It's a workout, that CrossFit workout that Matt mentioned. At least it's in a CrossFit gym. Maybe it wouldn't meet the definition of a CrossFit workout. And then after that, we sit down together and we go through our discussion questions, our positive psychology. So it's important that we bring everybody face to face every day, and we're not operating on the West Coast. There are a lot of veteran organizations on the West Coast. And if anybody wants to reach out, I'm happy to refer some of them. And of course, Google works very well. And some are outdoor based, some are fitness based.
Gotcha. Great. Anybody else have anything to add on that? I just don't want to cut anybody off.
No, I was going to say, so we do not, as far as the Warrior Alliance, we don't have any, there's not like the Warrior Alliance on the West Coast. We do have one of our partners called America's Warrior Partnership. So if we ever get veterans that connect to us from different areas, different regions, we normally like to connect them to America's Warrior Partnership, and they'll typically be able to provide resources to them. I'm stoked about what what you have, Mike. Once I heard what you were saying, I was just like, okay, please tell me there's a chapter here in Atlanta. Please, please, please. But if there's not, don't worry about it. We can make that happen soon. So
Matt Roski, he'll make it happen for you.
Jared, yeah, definitely. Let's talk about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Make
there's
connections.
definitely. Yeah, that's the other thing about Outward Bound, the connections from rock climbing at Table Rock. Mike, you said, are there any more Marines on the line? I want to make sure that I'm saying happy birthday to all the Marines, because the ones that I know will give me a whole bunch of crap. So even though the Marines get to have their birthday right before Veterans Day, and I don't think that's fair. I think that's pretty selfish. 2 days of kicking back and having fun. So we'll leave that to them. But no, North Carolina Outward Bound is really about connections, and those connections last. I love how it's not organic. It is definitely planned. It's structured. That you put us into nature, and it's safe, but it definitely makes you learn about yourself, and it gives you the freedom to learn about others in a very safe environment, and to realize that, again, the skills that you had in the military, you can definitely use them in your civilian sector. So.
Well, speaking of those connections, Karen and Christy, I would love to sort of turn, some of this mic over to you all. You have the unique distinction of having been together on a course, and you arrived on that course as strangers, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
In fact, full disclosure, I was there, one of their instructors in a great instructional team as well. So we all arrived on that course as strangers. And so maybe if one of y'all would just like to sort of share, where that course was, how that went down, what time of year it was, any maybe kind of fond memories. I'd love to just sort of open that space for you.
Your turn, Christy. Oh, well, I can say something if she's not ready.
Christy, you're on mute.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I'm talking like, oh, okay.
Go ahead, Karen, though. You were doing great.
Oh, no. It was fall, which is perfect for North Carolina because, it could be hot here in the summer, but it was beautiful. And then it was just nice to meet new people. And I forgot where I was going with this. So go ahead, Christy, take it over.
Well, I would add on that. So Karen and we were strangers, and we got there, and we immediately connected because we were both helicopter pilots. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But we had a wide array of ladies in our crew. All branches were represented. I think the youngest was in her early 20s. The oldest was in her late 60s. So
early 60s, but yeah.
Early 60s. Okay, sorry, she would kill me. But I mean, we had this amazing, variety of people, personalities, fitness levels, from across the country. And so it was really neat to kind of come together. I think we all really connected very quickly. Our leaders were amazing. So they helped facilitate that process very well. I think it rained the very first day we were there. So that was a nice twist as well to kind of give us that military feel. But it was really an outstanding experience. And I was thinking earlier on as y'all were speaking, and for me, it was a really personal experience for me in that I was dealing with a lot of the transition from the military into civilian world, even though I got out years ago. There's still that transition I think we make where we're trying to find our place and how we contribute back to society. And for me, Sarah was an instrumental guide for me in understanding that I'm the one putting the pressures on myself to do something, to be something beyond what I felt like I was at that time. So to me, the quiet time, the structure of kind of forced reflection upon yourself was really helpful and has really helped me in the past year. I remember sitting out in the woods thinking, writing to myself and saying, these are some things I need to do. I need to stop putting this pressure on myself. I need to just find what makes me happy and do it and stop being afraid to fail. And in the last year, I'm very happy to say I've succeeded in a lot of those areas. So it was really an outstanding experience for me from that perspective of just disconnecting. I definitely resonated when I think Mike was talking earlier about being out in wilderness and disconnecting. That was all super important to the process, and the Outward Bound, the crews, the leaders there. It was a very well organized experience, and it really I recommend it to anybody and everybody.
Thanks for that, Christy. Karen, did you have anything else? I'm going to wax on about your course in just a minute, but I want to make sure that I give Karen some space.
No, I enjoyed our time sharing by the fire, and a lot of personal stories were shared, and it was really healing, but it just felt like a very comfortable place to share some deep thoughts, but yeah. So
Absolutely. So Christy, you say it rained the first day. If it's the way I remember, so we were down on like the lower platforms at Table Rock, or maybe upper plats, I don't know, but we were on one of the platforms that first night, and I think it like dumped. Like I don't think it just like rained a little bit. If I recall, it was like a full-on deluge, and you all were waking up and putting your yellow rubber ducky suits on like first thing, and it was like, all right, I guess we're going to be starting this course in the pouring down rain. So I don't think it was just a little bit. I remember it like really rained, and then it like got crazy hot, and then it was crazy cold. I think we had a lot of weird temperature fluctuation during that time. One thing that sticks out for me is I think we did, Christy, you mentioned your like reflective solo time, and I do actually specifically remember y'all solo because we were at the Table Rock parking lot. I think we had come through the double cellar that day, and done sort of the walk around Table Rock and come into the parking lot, and we're gonna set you all on solo. And with it being late fall, I don't know if we'd already sprung forward or not, but it got dark real early. And I remember when we put you on solo, it was like, you're gonna be on solo into the dark. And I think you guys did have a little bit of solo nighttime, which was great. And just spectacular. It was either a sunset or a sunrise. I can't remember, but I know a lot of us have shared pictures of just some of them were like just spectacular, and sharing that. And that's important for me. That was the last course that I've worked in the mountains, and I've since transitioned jobs and won't be working as much in the field anymore. But that was that's going to be important to me, just remembering that like that's like one of my last nights in the mountains in the field, and to have shared that with you all, which is pretty awesome. I also love that there was like some competitive camaraderie between your crew and the other crew of veterans that was going on at the exact same time. I think it was 2 all-female crews. They're running simultaneously. Rasky, you probably remember specifically.
It was.
Yeah, and I remember we did your PCE, and I think there was some friendly competition there between our crew and the other crew, and who was going to have some of the top finishers there on the PCE. And I do remember that it was ours.
Crew didn't have 2 pilots involved.
we had some hard chargers in that group.
Yeah, I was going to say, Christy and I were not the highly competitive pair of people in our group. There were some very competitive women there. So when we had our race, they did blow past everybody in all the teams.
We cheered them on with all of our hearts.
Yeah.
It was friendly. It was definitely friendly.
I have a question for you two, if that's okay.
Yeah, please, Mike.
So you talked a lot about, at least what I understood, you had a really good experience at Outward Bound. I heard really enjoying the fireside discussions and the ability to be vulnerable with other people there. Was that different than your expectations, say, the day before you went? Like what, can you explain how you felt going to Outward Bound versus how you felt after you left Outward Bound or NCOBS?
Yeah, I didn't expect that we would have some kind of emotional challenges, or that we would even have discussions or, deep reflecting, so that was a little surprise, but I was very glad I was able to open up about my personal experiences with depression, and this was the first group of people I ever told it to, how far along my depression got until I was suicidal. So this was the first group of people I opened up to. And so I was thankful to have their ears. I felt like they didn't judge, and they felt, I know other people's eyes were wet from, from crying a little bit. So I appreciated that.
I'm about to cry right now.
Me too. I want to right now, Karen.
Oh, well, I've been good for a while, so thankfully I feel like that's in my past now. But I appreciated the group of women that and one guy who was with us to be there for me at the time. So
I would just add that for me, I was very nervous about the physical aspect of it, not knowing at all what to expect. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s and, you know, my best shape days are behind me, unfortunately. Well, maybe not, maybe I'll get back, but, you know, so I was more concerned and nervous about the physical aspect of it. You know, would I be able to keep up? You know, I knew that there were I knew of a couple of women who went to West Point also, but they were a good bit younger than me. So I was a little concerned about where I would fall from the physical side. So I would say that the self-reflection and really what I walked away with being kind of this more understanding of myself, as a veteran, as a mother, as a woman, all of those things, that piece of it was what was crucial, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's a great question, Mike. Really do like that.
Mm-hmm.
We should, Karen and Christy, we should, shout out to Anthony Sousa, who was our lone male instructor on the course with us.
He was awesome.
yes, he's
Fantastic.
That sounds like
Anthony, also a Marine.
yes,
Yes.
he's a Marine. Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yes, I think we had 2 Marines, including Anthony. And he just is the embodiment of servant leadership and just really was a great asset on that program. And Nat Sheffield, who was our 3rd instructor, and it was her first veterans course. And I feel comfortable sharing. She wouldn't, feel uncomfortable about this, that, it had a great deal of impact on her to spend time with you women in the field. And she's younger, one of our younger instructors, and to have that opportunity to spend that time with you was very impactful for her and very moving. And Anthony, Nat, and I spent some pretty quality time together after that course, sort of debriefing that and sharing, and it really did have a great impact on her. So just know that did carry on beyond your course. Great. Obviously, here we are all facing sort of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's sort of hard to have any conversations that don't at some point address that. I'm curious, has that impacted, Jared, your organization at all, or Mike and Matt, what you all are doing with 23rd Veterans? Clearly, it's impacted us and how we've been able to serve you, but that's about over on our end. So just curious, have you had to sort of modify what y'all are doing in any way?
So yes, we had to, so prior to the pandemic, we were averaging 100 to 120 new veterans or warriors to our organization per month. That number drastically dropped to 40 to 50 new veterans. But the thing that we did see is the re-engagement. So what that allowed us to see or ascertain was the navigators, and our navigators are like case managers for our warriors. They had built trust and created bonds, and we have anywhere from 60 to 70 warriors re-engage with us every month. So, we've become that trusted brand. Not just for the warriors, but also for those veteran service organizations that we've worked with. Some organizations, it's been very, very hard based upon their model. TMC, the Mission Continues, is a great organization, but they do a lot of, outdoor activities, whether it's improvements in schools or just different types of things. And they had to pause on all their programming because of the COVID restrictions. So it's learning how to, from our data and our own experiences, passing that on to our community partners so they can flex, being able to still get the word out for our community partners. And honestly, looking at a partner like Travis May and taking what they've done and being able to really highlight that and building upon community. One thing as I'm listening to everybody, Christy and is it Karen? I want to make sure I said the name. Okay. When you said pilot, the way you guys lit up, it was, that's that bond that we all have. I talk about Marines all the time, but that's the closest, that's who we engage with. We engage with the Marines. So I'm going to talk trash about them, but at the same time, it's a family. I think that a lot of us as organizations, we've learned to rely more upon our partners. They're not just your partners, they're family. Whether it's the uniform that brought you together, or whether it's the cause. So this has made us a better all-around organization, and we've learned more about our partner users. It's also made us pay attention and pause, if you will, to say, hey, even though we might be working together, how are you doing? And I really want to know, how are you doing? You're taking care of veterans, you're taking care of our fellow brothers and sisters, but we pause on a regular basis every week now and just check in with each other. So
That's a really good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 23rd Veteran, I would say we were the perfect organization to be impacted. Our funding is based in fundraising events, bringing people together, hundreds of people together to do an event. And our programs are based in getting veterans out of isolation and face-to-face with each other. So first off, we know everything in hindsight now. It's a lot easier to say what the impact has been. We weren't really sure. But when things first shut down, we were planning a few fundraising events over the next few months that were canceled. So we had 7 major fundraising events between 23rd Veterans Own and our third parties that were canceled this year, and it led to us having to shut down. And that was really difficult for me personally, as well as the organization and the veterans we serve. Of course, like I said, our entire organization is based on getting veterans out of this isolation, and not only the veterans that we want to help for the future and in that moment, but also the ones that we already had and the progress that they were having, what was going to happen to that now that they can no longer continue that progress out in the community and continue experiencing their triggers in a more positive way with these people that they trust. And then of course, the laying off of the employees as well. I know so many organizations around the world have been dealing with that. As I said, we're a fundraising based organization for our funding. We don't have a lot of foundation giving, so that was a learning curve for us. We were able to reopen in the fall, and very quickly upon reopening, we're able to partner with some foundations that were able to come through with enough funding to at least run one of our programs this fall, which was a godsend. We were extremely thankful that we were able to bring some veterans together during this time and run one of our programs for them and their family members in our community. And I'm not sure what the future is going to look like yet for this. I would say we're not completely in the hindsight yet. We don't know how long the shutdown is going to be. We don't know if or how effective our program can be in a virtual world. The one that we're running right now is not being done virtual. We're face-to-face in the gym, we're face-to-face in the community. And if the COVID situation gets worse and things have to shut down again, we will probably transition to be doing Zoom calls for our positive psychology and workouts. But will that be effective enough to help our veterans the way that we're hoping to help them?
Yeah, that's certainly something that we understand, and the challenges that you all have mentioned. As an organization, it's interesting. Our organization, both 23rd Veterans, the Warrior Alliance. We are by nature resilient organizations and folks who tend to persevere, and are organizations that can be faced with this kind of hardship and challenge, and often turn those things into opportunities. So I think a lot of us can hopefully see that at some point we are the type of organizations that can turn this challenge into something positive. And I totally, Mike, I can't let a comment about virtual effectiveness go by without saying something about that, since that is a lot of the work that we're starting to do with Outward Bound as well, is taking some of our programming to a virtual environment. And it is effective. And especially in a place when, in the absence of anything else, we do have the opportunity to create true connection and to create, really great and meaningful conversation that is important and moves the mission forward. I want to sort of like just pay attention to our time here, kind of go around the horn and see if anybody has any kind of final comments they'd like to add to this conversation. I see Roski's mouth is moving, so I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
So really what I wanted to say is, you were talking about resiliency and within the organizations that we all are working with to take on the mission of, giving veterans the space that they need to grow. But I think even bigger than that is, the resiliency that the folks that we are working with show. When we, as NCOVs, when I was there, we'd get students out on course that were veterans. I can't tell you how many times I heard from past participants, Matt, you gave me a reset. Matt, you saved my life. And that's the same thing with 23rd Veteran. I know for a fact with some of the students that Mike has put on course in the past 2 years, it did exactly that. Not only was it the Outward Bound program that did it, but it was the rest of the program with 23V Recon that made the difference between somebody being here and somebody not being here. And I think the biggest thing that any of these programs can do is give a veteran the opportunity to realize that they have that resilience within them and that we can help give them a little kick to realize that. And then once they get that, what's the famous Outward Bound saying, the light bulb moment?
Right.
They have that light bulb moment, and then all we're doing is guiding them. But they're the ones that are driving that experience for themselves and rediscovering all the things that they knew were there but maybe forgot about.
Mike, you asked me, we started this conversation sort of before we went live, and I said that, as an instructor, these are the most rewarding courses to work. And I think, Roski just points out, like, why, right? I mean, we have the opportunity as instructors to be a part of facilitating that for someone. I mean, what more an honor, could we have than to be able to create that experience and facilitate that experience? So that's why they are so rewarding from an instructor sort of standpoint. Anything else here before we kind of move on to closing off? Yeah, Jared.
Well, I've got one thing. It's going to be a little hard to see this, but I got this from our excursion. Yes. And this is vitally important to me because at the time, it was one of those tipping points in my life. I was really wondering, okay, where do I move? How do I move? What is this? I know the fire's there, but who am I now? After the injuries, who am I now? And Mike, I think about what you were saying earlier when it comes to the positive reinforcement, sitting there on the island, I was able down there in the Everglades to fashion this. And I remember when we got back to I'll just say the home base, we were all trying to figure out, okay, so how are you going to get this thing on the plane? And I'm like, I'm not getting on the plane unless I take this. I earned this right here. So it is mine. It is part of my life now. And, I say that, but God bless, I can't even remember how many years ago that is. But it's interesting because this stays in my garage and my kids will be playing with it. We've stretched with it. We've done yoga with it. We've been in the yard with it. And it's something that I can take that is positive and be able to share that with my kids. And, I am, to some, this might be a stick, but, the memories behind this and the experiences behind this, I really encourage any and everybody that is watching this to make time. Don't just say, I've got to take time. No, make time. This will have a positive and lasting effect upon your life, whether it's something like me canoeing and falling halfway into the water and screaming bloody murder, or whether it's, crabs crawling up on your mosquito net at nighttime and you're like, what the heck am I doing down here? But the fact of the matter is that you come together, you can laugh about it. You know, you can share precious moments. The moment I had to share with my participants was, you know, I love the Army, but my oldest child doesn't. Why? Because this is the thing that almost killed her dad. I was torn with that something out of my love and my commitment and my passion could negatively affect somebody, but having my fellow brothers and sisters there, it just gave me an opportunity to talk to people and engage with people that really got it. So the only thing that I would say is, you know, make time. It is worth it. I don't care where you go, make the time to get involved and go with North Carolina Outward Bound. I can't say the acronym like Matt. It just doesn't sound right.
Jobs. Hey, so we're watching and monitoring some of the comments that are out there. One, I want to give a shout out. Woody Woodward is out here watching us right now tonight, and Woody has just been a long time supporter of our veterans programs, and so just so happy to hear that he's online. And then Mike, you've got a special shout out. Jessica Ross says to say hello and to give you a shout out. So
Jessica,
there's that. Hey, thank you so much, everyone, for your time tonight. We really appreciate the fact that you've come out to sort of share your experience with our veterans programs. It's really important to us. Karen and Christy, goodness, it is so great to see both of you. There's been a lot of life lived in the year since we saw each other, but it does also feel sort of just like yesterday as well. Before we sign off for the night, I've just got a couple of quick announcements and reminders. Winter 2021 season in the Everglades is beginning in December. We are returning to field-based programming. We are so happy to be getting back into the wilderness. I know that we've been, just yesterday we were packing sea kayak gear out at the town office, loading boats this weekend, and we are starting to move and make our great southern migration down towards the Green 33 for anybody who knows what that is. So really excited about going back into the wilderness. We currently have openings right now for adults on sea kayaking in the 10,000 Islands area. We also have our entire summer 2021 course schedule up on the website, and those courses are enrolling as we speak. And you can find those at ncobs.org/coursefinder. Our vet specific courses release tomorrow on Veterans Day. So we will have a whole slew of new veterans courses and veterans opportunities available on the website for people to focus on and to see. We've got, for folks who are local here in Asheville, we have on Monday night, we have Power in Pints, which is happening at the Hillman Brewery in Biltmore Village. $1 from every Hillman beer sold will go to our veterans programs. That is on November 16th. There's more details of that on Facebook. Hey, NCOBs, like 23rd Veterans, like Warrior Alliance, we are a nonprofit. And while programming is a large part of what we do, we also rely on financial support from people like all of you that are watching. If you are able, a donation is always appreciated. Even just $5 can go a long way. You can donate at www.ncobs.org/donate. We will be coming back on Facebook Live. Our next event will be on Giving Tuesday. That is December 1st, and that'll be here probably before any of us know it. That's crazy. But other than that, that is all we have tonight. If anybody has anything they want to say before we head off, we're going to go ahead and close out. I see Raskin's got his hand up.
I do. I just wanted to say thanks for the opportunity, Sarah. Good to see Jared, Christy, Karen, and if you want to find out more about 23rd Veteran and what we do, please check out 23rdveteran.org. That's 23rdveteran.org. And any of you that have my email address or my phone number, if you want to ask questions, you can always call me, and there's ways to reach me through the website as well.
It's really good to meet everyone
Sarah.
tonight.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody. Thanks so much. And we will see everyone the next time on December 1st. Take care.
All right. Good night. Thank you,
Take
Sarah.
care, guys.
Good night.
See ya.